Welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk to a commercial real estate broker who specializes in industrial and commercial real estate with a focus on the Los Angeles, California metropolitan area. We're going to learn how this marketplace is performing, what opportunities are out there. All this and more coming up.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and to reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now, your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke, and today we have Anthony Behar. Anthony is a commercial real estate broker with major properties out in Los Angeles, California. Anthony is also the host of Behar on the Block podcast. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Dwaine. Thanks so much for finding me out here in Los Angeles. It's great to be on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited because we talk to investors and brokers all over the country. So I like talking to people with boots on the ground, as we have listeners from all over the world, frankly, listening on. And it's interesting to kind of learn because there's so many different pockets of markets out there, especially with a large state like California. And you specializing there, we can kind of really learn what's going on so we can be well informed and we can take some action there. So before people that are not familiar with you, I know you have a podcast, you're very well known on the circuit. For people who are not familiar with you, can you kind of talk about your background and how you got started in real estate?
Sure. I actually used to be in advertising a long time ago. And during the '01 recession and internet bubble, I made the switch to commercial real estate. And I joined Major Properties then as a sales associate in 2002 or 2000, around 2002, and made the jump into brokerage. And I always liked the commercial industrial end of real estate, and I was always pretty good at sales, so it was a pretty natural transition. And just worked my butt off through brokerage in the LA area, and now a few years ago they made me a partner at the firm, and so I've been at it for about 18 years now and have a lot of experience in all sorts of aspects of real estate, sales, leasing, development, investment, acquisitions, property representation, owner rep, and so forth.
Awesome. I know you being in the industry for over 20 years in this LA market, I understand it's like a very huge marketplace, and I know they have like different pockets like Northwest and things like that. Can you kind of talk about kind of the sentiment, the investor sentiment now? I know that we're going through a transition nationally through the as far as kind of the real estate market. Can you kind of give your take as far as what you're seeing locally there in LA?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. Just to back up a little bit, so in COVID time, our market and what I specialize in did not see a decline. So my specialty is working on the industrial side, and that's really like in manufacturing, distribution, e-commerce, buildings, anything warehousing. And that area, that sector of the real estate market here in Los Angeles did not really take a dip. There was a small little blip in, last spring, but by and large, we've held up really, really well. And the industrial market is one of those areas, and I think not just here locally, but nationally, that has remained very strong because of the e-commerce, because of distribution, getting the goods out, turning these warehouses into a commercial kitchen. So there's a lot of uses for these properties. So demand has gone up, right? It's put a lot of pressure for investors to get their hands on these properties. And they're competing with the owner-user market as opposed to other areas of real estate investment. Guys looking to get into industrial are competing with the owner-users, and rates have been super, super low. The debt's been super cheap, and it's made it a little bit easier. So if you have a company and you make t-shirts, for example, today it's much better for you to own this building, to own the real estate, than it is to lease it. So from an investment standpoint for industrial, a lot of pressure on investors. The yields are very, very, very low, especially in the core areas of Los Angeles. And a lot of these people are taking very, very long-term perspectives. They've been in 1031 exchanges. So you're not able to really buy a building, buy an industrial building, get a tenant in, and get a nice yield. It takes a lot of time. It's going to take time to get that cash flow that you want. So it's interesting here in LA. Prices have gone up and up and up term for sales, but the leasing rate has never caught up with the sales market. So there's always been this weird spread. And even with that spread, there's still so much demand to own industrial. It's an easier form of management. It's an easier, you have usually one tenant, maybe a few tenants, so if you want to chop up the building. But a lot of times, you don't hear from the tenants. You're not going to hear from somebody if a toilet's really broken, or some of the things you might hear from in an apartment. And a lot of times these deals are on a triple net basis. So it even makes it that much easier for a landlord. So it's an easier form of management. But your yields here in LA and in California are really, really low.
Yeah, I've been definitely hearing about the same thing. And me, I have my brokerage division here, and I deal with net lease investments. And one of our biggest, all the calls we're getting is say, how do we get into the industrial thing? Because they're seeing like Amazon, direct to consumer type of things. And now especially with LA, it's such a very dense infill of population, and these tenants want to get in there so they can be able to ship their products directly to consumer. And what you had mentioned there was also interesting with these commercial kitchens where, since they can't get people physically into their restaurants, that they can have these delivery mechanisms to get food out to customers and things like that. So that's definitely very interesting. But yeah, you're saying
Right.
like
So I'll share an example. So right now I was hired by an owner here in LA, and she has an old industrial building. It's about 18,000 square feet. She has some small mom and pop tenants. It's chopped up to a few different ways. So we took over the listing, took over the marketing of this, and we rebranded it a different way. And we got the right buyer, which is a commercial kitchen company, and they're going to be an owner user. So they are looking to take this old industrial building, and they're going to probably put several million into it, but turn it into a commercial kitchen. And it's in an infill area. It's around a lot of urban environments, a lot of residential areas. So they're going to be able to work with a lot of different restaurants and get food delivered in a much faster and more efficient way. I think it's a huge, huge business. I don't think, in LA, restaurants are going to be opening anytime soon, but I just think there's going to be more demand for this delivery service. And this is a really big business right now. So what I find super interesting, and so just to give some context to your listeners here. So if you're looking to get into industrial, one way is to buy an industrial building, you have Amazon as a tenant. You're probably going to get a very low yield, right? Great tenant, the best in the world. Yield's going to be low. Or you could look at buying some of these old industrial buildings, put some CapEx into it, modify it, get it ready to get a better tenant in there, and then you're going to be able to get a much higher rent. So look, don't be shy and look at just an old industrial building because it looks junky or something's wrong with it. That's where the added value opportunities come from. And that's, so I work with a lot of investors like that on how we could reposition these old industrial buildings where, a layman will look at it and say, oh, that looks gross or disgusting. But that's where the opportunity lies in a lot of these cases. So I would say for your investors, that's, another way to go about it, another way to look at these opportunities too.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I do a lot of like sale leasebacks. I'm seeing a lot of that on the marketplace. So that's kind of
Yep.
interesting to hear that as well. And as far as kind of any additional trends that you're seeing, and you had mentioned like commercial kitchens and distributions, industrial things like that. Is there any other stuff that people can be aware of? And then the second part to my question, as far as kind of people coming into the LA market, is it really tough to get in there? Is it very competitive for buyers? And where do you kind of see that trend heading into 2021?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll take the first question. So opportunities. That's a great question. LA is filled with opportunities, and one of the big things that we're working on, and I would share with your listeners, is look at repositioning properties, especially like here in LA. I don't really know your market too well, but at all actually. But here in Los Angeles, for example, we have a lot of really old real estate, right? Maybe buildings are 80 years old. We have some buildings that are 100 years old, or even buildings that are 50 years old that have run its course. And the use there is not going to really exist any longer. So look at businesses that are dying, look at where they had their real estate, and look at repositioning the real estate. I love that. And one of my favorite examples, and I've done a lot of these, but one of my favorites was working with a pickle manufacturer out here in the East Los Angeles area. And I had been working with this client for a number of years. Older gentleman, he was thinking of, winding down the business, selling the business, and he hired me to sell his real estate. And I said to him, I said, Marty, I love your property, but I don't think we're going to get another food operator in here or a food investor. All of your buildings are obsolete. The ceilings are low. The refrigeration is terrible. The electrical is bad. It's just the function of everything, the layout. So I said, look, I know you've made your living here. You've built an amazing business, but we are going to sell this as a land opportunity. And it was hard for him to swallow because he was still operating his business there, but it ended up being the right approach. And so we went out and marketed this towards developers. We ended up finding an affordable housing developer who turned this old pickle manufacturing plant. Now they're going through entitlements, and they're going to build, 200 units. They're going to put retail. They're going to put a medical clinic, completely reposition this asset. So those are opportunities for investors that want to come into LA. So that's from the opportunity standpoint. Your second question was, how do investors get into LA?
Yeah, is it as far as kind of competition? I mean, I deal with a lot of investors, and we're looking at multiple markets.
Okay.
Is there any play for investors now? Is it pretty tight as far as, I know everyone's looking at industrial, but particularly in LA, since it's so densely populated and has a lot of opportunities out there.
So yes, there are, and it depends on everyone's situation, right? Depends on how much money they're looking to invest, number one. Number two, I would say work with somebody here locally that understands the market, knows some of the nuances, or partner up with somebody that, really understands these and knows where opportunities come, because it is so diverse and there's so many little pockets in Los Angeles. So not understanding it, are you close to the freeways? Are you close to ports? Are you close to an urban area? Are you, really far away? Like, who's going to be the tenant here if you buy it? So understanding some of the nuances really, really helps too. But I would say from a macro answer, yes, the market is tight. Yes, it is difficult for investors to get in and really make a big play here in Los Angeles, especially like, mom and pa investors, really tough. Like if you and I said, hey, Dwaine, let's put some money together and get a couple guys and go buy an industrial building, really, really hard, because again, supply is low. We're competing with the owner users, and it's just really tight right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. That was
So
kind of it kind of collaborate what I was thinking there. Yeah, so absolutely. All right, perfect. Well, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, because like I said, that's definitely a big thing is like the industrial and kind of learning more about that. So I appreciate you sharing. And I understand that kind of learn a little bit more about you. You get kind of a pulse of the market by talking to local business owners, politicians, and kind of thought leaders in that LA market. Can you tell us about your show, Behar on the Block, and what people can learn from that?
Yeah, thanks, Dwaine. So the podcast is Behar on the Block. We do episodes maybe about once a month, not up there with your pace yet, Dwaine, at 5 times a week, but maybe I'll get there. So we talk to developers, we talk to investors, we talk to restaurant owners, local politicians, and just to see these people are really impacting the fabric of Los Angeles, like what's happening, how are they doing it. So I sit down with them once a month and get a sense. Like, for example, my last guest was Ken Cahan in California Landmark Group, major developer, multifamily developer here in the greater LA area. And, we hear his insight, what it's like, how you do it, and the impact they're having. So if anybody wants to take a listen, Behar on the Block, really about LA real estate.
Yeah, definitely. Because me as an outsider, especially on all this side of the country in Connecticut, especially if you're even thinking about investing in there, is a good resource to kind of learn what local people are doing, all of this stuff, and of course you being the real estate expert to kind of give you the nuances and that kind of strategy going forward, and talking to us about, like I said, industrial, which is a big play right now. So I appreciate you sharing that. Just to kind
I'd
of
say
learn.
one thing, Dwaine, I just want to add to your listeners is, even though you won't get the yield today here in LA as opposed to buying an industrial, say like in North Carolina, for example, but you will over time get much better appreciation in the greater LA area or in California than you would in some of the secondary or tertiary markets.
Mhm.
So, that's something you got to weigh out. Do you want cash flow now? Or are you a long-term investor, can wait it out, and you're going to take the appreciation, which you're going to get much better here in Los Angeles and in California?
Yeah, totally agree. Absolutely. So to kind of learn a little bit about you, to kind of end this segment and go into here to kind of the guests to learn about my interaction with you. Can you take us through a typical workday as a real estate broker and consultant? And do you have any special morning routines?
I'm a big morning routine guy. I'm huge on that, and it's really impacted my life in a much more positive way. I wasn't always a very positive person, and so for me, I'll share real quick. My morning routine is start off with the 5 minute journal, and I write, three things that I'm grateful for every morning, three things that I want to see achieve that day, and then a mission statement that I kind of live by, and then I exercise. I meditate for 15 minutes, and then I'll exercise for about an hour. And during this whole time, I don't even look at my phone, so I'm not on email, I'm not on text or anything like that, social media. I want to check in with myself first and get my mind and body right before I start the day. And so I'm really in that mode. And once I get all of that out of the way, then I'm on, then I'm at it. I'm answering emails or text messages or whatnot. So it depends on the day. Like I'll have multiple escrows going on at once, and I will check in with those, make sure everything's okay. Do we need anything? Are there problems? Take care of those. Or sometimes days have showings. We'll do property tours. We'll do outreach. We'll do cold calling some days, and they stay busy. I mean, there's always something going on. Commercial real estate, there's never any of the same thing, right?
Hmm.
So there's so many things you're juggling day in and day out. There's tenants you're dealing with. There's environmental issues. There's broker calls all day long and emails all day long about my listings. and then I'm spending the other half of the day talking to property owners on advising them on the best avenue for their real estate,
Mm,
right? Is
mm-hmm.
it better to lease it, better to sell it? What do we do, Anthony? So just, having conversations, asking questions, talking to them.
Cool. Okay, I like that. And I especially like the 5 minute journal. I got mine's a couple months ago, and it's a game changer for me. So I really love this morning routine talk, and it's
Game
interesting.
changer.
Every
Yep.
single guest that we have on the show, they have some sort of routine that's similar to that. Meditation, just kind of clearing your mind. Especially us being brokers as well. Fast paced industry. There's a lot of moving parts. Always things that's popping up, and if you don't kind of start the day with a clear head, it can kind of get out of control and other things fill it, and you just feel less effective, and things just spiral down. So that's really cool to hear that you're doing it, since you're such a high caliber a broker. So I appreciate you sharing that for our audience. And you had mentioned
Yeah.
like the 5 minute journals, any other electronic tools that you use between you and your team or your associates that help you become more productive.
No, not I mean, we have, a lot of the basic commercial real estate tools we use to help in our research. I don't know if you're talking about that, or are you talking about social
Oh, like
media, or are you talking about
or like even like
real
just like
estate, or
time management tools or things that you use as the communicate. I know people use Slack and things like that, or other different tools that just help you make your day go a little bit more smoother.
yeah, no, I don't a partner. Some my deals are work differently. Some guys are on one deal, some guys are on different deals. So we're just in touch, throughout the day, and we're all here locally. We're all LA based on the brokers that I'm working with. So we don't have really a time issue problem.
Mm,
And most of the owners and clients that I'm working with are all LA based or California based for the most part. So I don't really have a time issue thing. So I really, really focus 95% of my time energy here on, LA and California real estate. So it's a lot easier to kind of communicate with people that
mm.
way.
Awesome. And then kind of hearing it like, with your morning routine and things like that, as far as kind of like affirmations, things like that. So I want you that other piece is gratitude. So what can you say that you're most grateful for?
Oh man. Easy. I mean, every day, I'm grateful for something. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to breathe every morning, to love, to learn, to laugh, right? To just be alive. I mean, people take that, I think, for granted. We're so lucky that we have this. I'm still, as crazy as things are right now, and in our country, I still think the United States is the best country in the world. I'm grateful to be in a country where we're technically free to do and say what we want. And I'm grateful I have a beautiful family and wife, and healthy kids. So,
Mhm.
those are the three major things right now. But, for me, you got to remember, like, every day isn't a huge, huge win. So it's being grateful for the little things in your life too. And that's what, with the 5 minute journal, writing that stuff down every single day, it helps remind you of the smaller things in your life that you're grateful for. It could be a conversation, it could be an old friend. Sometimes it's a great deal, and sometimes it's a simple conversation. So every day is not a home run. You got to remember, the bunts, the base hits, the little things, and they all add up.
Absolutely. That's a really good point there. And as far as getting in contact with you, we'll make sure I have all your contact information in the show notes, blast it out to our network so people can reach out and get into contact with you. But is there any contact information you can share online with us today?
I mean, all the social media, I'm on all of them: Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, a lot. I post a lot of good LA content about commercial real estate in LA on LinkedIn. So, Anthony Behar. Um, my email, Anthony at majorproperties.com. And I think you'll post other, all the links, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy
Awesome.
to chat with anybody out there in the internet world.
Perfect. And especially get in touch on that podcast so you can even get some insight, learning from owners and, people on the street so you can kind of learn more about that market as we kind of
Learn about
continue.
LA, like a lot of good guests we've had from major developers and local politicians. And hotel developers. So we really, really focus. You really learn a lot about the LA area. And yeah, take a listen to the show, Apple iTunes, Behar on the Block.
Awesome. All right, Anthony, it was a pleasure having you on. Best to you. Have a continued success throughout the year. Best to you and the family. I appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Dwaine. I appreciate you reaching out again, and it's been a lot of fun. I hope your listeners get some value out of this too about LA.
Absolutely. All right, take care, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too. Good luck with everything.
All right, thank you. That's to you as well. Hey there, this is Dwaine Clarke, your host of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. I want to thank you again for tuning in and hope you're enjoying this valuable content. While I got you for a quick minute, I wanted to send you an invitation to join our growing investor community. It's called the Passive Investors Club. It's a group of like-minded individuals like you who are seeking financial freedom and to build true wealth through passive investing in commercial real estate. We take a totally different approach to investing that is opposite, that is pushed by the financial advisors and what we see in the mainstream media. We like to invest in real assets that we can touch and understand and that are not subject to the wild swings of the financial markets. We don't want to be part of the herd who pursues the traditional route, leaving our financial future to Wall Street. So if you're interested in joining our group and to sharing resources and opportunities, then go to passiveinvestorsclub.com/join. Joining the club is completely free and there's no obligation. And all our members receive our free Passive Investors course along with tons of resources and content. So again, passiveinvestorsclub.com/join.